How did learning the language influence you as a teacher? Did it make you a better teacher?
I think it's really important to be able to see the language learning process from a student's perspective, and that could mean that you've just learned any other language outside of your own language, if English is what you're teaching. Um, but it also helps to understand the mother tongue for the population that you're teaching, because obviously then you get all the common mistakes and you kind of understand where they're coming from. Um, yeah.
How do the Chinese students differ from the Americans? Did you find them easier to teach?
Chinese traditional education is pretty teacher centered and delivery oriented, so it made classroom management very easy. They were the most respectable students I've ever seen. However, it's pretty tough to get them to give their own opinions or to drive the direction of the classroom experience. Eventually I found that it was really breaking them into smaller groups and allowing them to kind of prepare their thoughts before they would present in a larger group. Um, but in general, it was a wonderful experience, and I would go back and do it in a heartbeat. And I don't say that about every teaching experience or professional experience I've had. So it was a really great one.
What did your students find most difficult about the language? Did they already have a high level?
So most of my students, had an all right level of English, and some of them had an advanced level. And the interesting thing was after the 3 years I was there, I was already seeing an evolution in the younger students, because they'd probably grown up a little bit more around English media. Um, but I was mostly teaching masters and doctoral students, and they could read and write fairly well, but their listening and oral expression was definitely not up to par. So I focused a lot more on discussion oriented activities, pronunciation, and tried to tailor the class to get them to explore and kind of own the language more.
Your classes were rather flexible, weren't they? Tell us about some of the things that used to happen in your classes.
So yeah, my classes were very flexible, especially from the administrative side. I had almost 100% control over my syllabus. So when I first got there, that was kind of tough, because I had to design it all. But after the first year, I actually went back to the United States, and I took a bunch of films and made these really cool videos of all these interesting and culturally different situations, things that would make them go, "Wow, that's kind of weird," and kind of play with that line of what is normal. And then I took lots of films of different accents, and played with different international accents too. And you know, I I tried tons of different things over the 3 years, and I was always kind of seeking what they would enjoy, and you know, all in all, it worked out pretty well.
Now you're in romantic Paris. How did you end up here on the other side of the globe? Which came first, Paris or the woman?
Yes, I have come back to the West, and yes, true, I've come back because of the love of my life. Um, so we met in China, and now I am back in France, so Paris, which is where we live. And who can complain about being in Paris? I I'm not necessarily a big city person, but we actually live a little bit outside the city, so it feels a little bit more down home, and there's nice parks nearby, and I like France. I love the language, and it's nice to be here.
Okay, now you're with Edulang. I know they're currently marketing several products. Could you tell us about them and what your role is?
So Edulong develops web applications for EFL learning, and it's a great job for me right now because one, doing the social media presence, I'm in contact with amazing educators all over the world, learning so much about ed tech and the e-learning industry, but also just about ELT in general. And it's interesting coming from the teaching perspective to move more towards the publishing perspective because there's just so much more that's going on. Specifically with Edgelong, since we're doing everything on the web, we're working a lot with our programmers, or I'm working with them, and graphic designers. And then there's obviously the people that do the materials writing and the PhD that does all the kind of pedagogical behind the scenes details. So it's been a really interesting experience for me. And we have three main products right now. The first is English Addicts, which is a daily English lesson based on a news story. So it's about a 2-minute transcript, 10 exercises with it, and it's really focused on listening, and also listening of international English. So there's 13 different accents that students can choose from, and also they can choose just as well what kind of news stories they want to follow, and it's gotten great returns from teachers. It's a great program for autonomous learning, but then works really well as it works on listening and building vocabulary. Then those are the kinds of things that teachers improve upon and work with oral expression especially. The second product would be Test Simulator. So that's for the TOEIC and TOEFL tests, and it is an exact replica of taking the test. It gives you that exact test experience. And likewise, it's done very well. ETS is actually commercializing it throughout Europe. And then the third product, a lot of people have probably heard of, which is Snap Panda. It's a cool augmented reality dictionary where you touch a word, and then we grab that image and then send it off, and within seconds you have the definition for it. So it's in a very exciting stage now because it's really coming of age and developing and evolving, and will be out on the iPhone very, very soon, and Android, a new version, very, very soon. And it's been great to be a part of that. So that's what I'm doing at Edgelong, is really kind of spreading the word and interacting, and I love my job.
All right, Brad. Although there are many other questions I would like to ask you, there are many things I would like to talk to you about. We'll have to leave them for another time, another place. So my final question, what next?
What's next? Man, that has been the question that I have asked all my life. And it's funny because at this point, I've been traveling for 15 years, and I'm finally getting to the point where the question isn't about so much what's next, but kind of what's now, and what's the project that I'm focusing on right now, and I'm really happy with what I'm doing. So what's next is more of the same. In 2 weeks, I leave for China for the annual trip that I go with my family there, and we'll spend a month there, and it'll be really busy, but lots of Chinese food, see some old friends. And then same with projects that are going on with Edgelong. So, I'm really happy to be able to say that what's next is more of the same, and that sounds good to me. So, Chu, thanks so much for having me on, and, I really look forward to what's next for you, or who's next, rather. So, thanks again, and thanks for watching.
Well, there you have it, the multi-talented Brad Patterson in person, in body, mind, and spirit, talking about his past, his present, and his immediate future. So, who shall be next in the hot seat?